tonight on Our News Live at 7, as former FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried spent his first night behind bars at the Bahamas Department of Corrections. A U.S. House committee is examining what representatives are calling one of the largest frauds in history. A new industrial agreement takes the airline, airport, and allied workers to new heights. And later, our Berthany McDermott joins us live with a taste of Margaritaville, just in time for the holidays. And then in our news at 7:30, why a Grand Bahama attorney familiar with extradition proceedings says he believes the former FTX CEO should have been given house arrest instead of jail time. This is Our News Live at 7. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Megan Shepard. Ranking members of the U.S. House Committee calling the collapse of FTX one of the largest frauds in history. This as the company's new CEO, John Ray III, was questioned following the arrest of former FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried here on Wednesday. Wisconsin Representative Brian Stile bringing into question the transfer of funds after the company filed for bankruptcy.
Do you know whether or not that was an actual hack, or was this done, as has been reported, at the direction of the Bahamian authorities?
It was both.
It was both. And so some was done as a result of a hack, some was done as a result of the request of the Bahamian authorities.
Yes, that's right.
And do you have indication as to why the Bahamian authorities made that request?
Well, it wasn't a request. They just took it.
The Bahamian authorities took the funds that were at FTX through their own action. Was no action required by FTX employees? Maybe you could provide just a little color.
They were aided by the ex-employees, yes.
They were aided by former employees of FTX.
Yes, Mr. Wang and Mr. Fried.
Stile then asked if Ray had any insight into what motivated the Bahamian government's decision.
Unlike the Chapter 11 process, there's no transparency in the process in the Bahamians, and we've repeatedly asked them for clarity about what they've been doing, and we've been shut down on that.
Ray then confirmed that it appears that former CEO Sam Bankman-Fried was attempting to undermine the scope of the United States federal bankruptcy law by moving assets under the control of the Bahamian government. To this end, he says the Chapter 15 case should not be consolidated in the Delaware Bankruptcy Court.
We think the Chapter 11 process is the only open, transparent process that gives visibility to customers of what happened and when they're going to get their money and how they're going to get their money. The process in the Bahamian Islands is not a transparent process. We have opened up the ability to share everything that we have with the Bahamian government, similar to how we share with other liquidators around the world. Not only in this case, in other cases, it's meant to be a very cooperative situation.
Now, the new CEO of FTX also answering questions regarding our government's involvement in this saga following the filing of bankruptcy. Be sure to stay tuned to Our News at 7:30 with Italia Hall for the full story. Prosecutors are no longer pursuing an appeal against the granting of bail to murder-accused Lyndon Vincent. The appeal was officially abandoned, paving the release for the 47-year-old accused of the October 31st shooting murder of Patrice Sawyer. She was gunned down in front of the Johnson Road home she shared with her parents shortly after someone called her outside. Prosecutors say Vincent pulled the trigger. He was formally charged with Sawyer's murder on November 7th. Senior Justice Bernard Turner granted Vincent a $30,000 bail on November 25th after his lawyers alleged that his diabetes was not being properly managed at the prison. However, the pending appeal suspended the judge's decision, resulting in Vincent's continued detention. Members of Nassau Flight Services signing the finished industrial agreement with the airport, airline, and allied workers union. The industrial agreement expired back in 2020. This new 3-year agreement, according to Nassau Flight Services Chairman O.B. Roberts, will honor the previous agreement.
Just a matter of concluding it and signing a new agreement. And then Nassau Flight Services over the last 2 years during COVID, we sustained some challenges like everyone else in the country. And we just wanted to primarily ensure the employees that the company will be fair and honest in our union negotiations to ensure that they can live amicably in these challenging economic times.
Union members will now get an increased meal allowance, duty travel allowance, long-term disability allowance, transportation allowance, and uniform allowance. They have also gotten additional vacation days, among other things. AAWU Secretary General Susan Palmer.
We can truly say that they have been generous in what they give. We never get, like you say, all that we want, but we, the executive and the members, is satisfied with what we have gotten in this contract.
It's now time for your first look at temperatures. Meteorologist Ian McKenzie is standing by in the Weather Center. Ian.
Thanks, Megan, and good evening, Bahamas. Welcome to our forecast for this evening. Currently outside our studios, we're under mostly clear skies with a temperature of 76. Our winds are out of the southeast at 14 miles per hour with a feels-like temperature of 80. Current conditions across the country right now, we have 67 in Freeport, 75 in Marsh Harbor, 79 in Allenstown, Bimini, 72 in Great Harbor Key, 77 in Governor's Harbor, 76 in the capital, and 74 in Nicholstown, Andros. In the central Bahamas, we have 76 in Camps Bay, 80 in Arthurstown, Kidd Island, 74 in Coburn Town, 80 in Georgetown, Exuma, and 79 in Deadman's Key, Long Island. In the southeast Bahamas, we have 3 pairs of doubles. We have 79 in Duncantown, Ragged Island, also in Delectable Bay, 76 in Colonel Hill, also in Abrahams Bay, and a pair of 78s in Providenciales, Turks and Caicos, and Matthewtown in Nagua. That rounds up our temperature profile. Let's have a look at our satellite picture at this time. We have a stall-out frontal system that's draped across the islands. This is producing some shower activity, mainly across the extreme northwest Bahamas at this time. The system should persist across our area over the next 48 hours, so we're going to keep a close eye on that. Stay tuned. More is still to come.
Still to come on Our News, our Berthany McDermott is downtown Nassau at Margaritaville Resort with a scoop on some delicious experiences. And the U.S. and Cuba spar over players at the World Baseball Classic. We'll tell you why. Plus, don't forget to turn those Christmas lights out before bed. How you can prevent fires this holiday season. That's coming up when Our News returns. Bahamians applauding a backyard farming initiative launched by Ado Bahamas and the Church Commercial Farming Group today. Officials noting that a large amount of Grand Bahamians registered for the program. The purpose, to teach Bahamians how to feed themselves for a lifetime.
This backyard farming initiative is for the purpose of providing training, resources, in the sense of just small resources to get you started, but to encourage all of us as Bahamians that are presently involved in farming, those that are not to consider to do so, and those especially at the commercial level, that we can do this as a nation.
The Bays and Waterkeepers Bahamas, Joseph Darwell, is commending the group for the effort.
I think to foster something like this brings us back into the appreciation. Like when I was growing up in Long Island, we depended upon the soil up until when I was 14 years old. Now I'm almost 81. And so, we had to go in the fields every morning before we went to school. And I think we need to bring all of our inhabitants back to that realization.
Festive Christmas lights, festive meals, and holiday scented candles are all a part of the things that make it feel like Christmas has arrived. But they can also be the unsuspecting fire hazards in your home. Marlena Leonard reports.
During the holiday season, some of us like to sleep with our Christmas lights on. But Fire Prevention Officer Corporal Dion Conliff tells us that might not be safe unless you make these safety checks.
It is okay if you take the necessary steps, like the lights has to be weatherproofed. You have to go through each strand of lights. You have to physically inspect them. Any kind of chafing, and you should not use those lights because it's on the outside, and whether condensation will corrode the actual material that the lights are made out of, and so it's a catastrophe waiting to happen, and it can actually feed back into your homes as well.
Conliffe adds that candle enthusiasts should not leave candles unattended and should exercise extra caution when outing their candles to be completely certain the flame has been totally outed, as some may relight shortly after being extinguished or may not have extinguished properly in the first place. And although many of our traditional holiday meals are made with a classic set it and forget it slow-cooked method, Conliffe says that is definitely not a rule one should have with cooking.
Timers. Please go for the timers. Definitely you would want to go and get timers, and you would schedule yourself, just your simple alarm clock on your phone. Schedule yourself just to be safe, because it is not your life that you're trying to preserve. It's the lives of the persons that you love around you, especially, I'll always say, when children are involved.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
A new resort with a well-known name is getting ready to host an exciting lineup of holiday activities. This week, the Our News team is exploring the wonders of Christmas at Margaritaville. Tonight, our Berthany McDermott joins us live with a sampling of the food and beverage experience. Berthany?
Megan, we're coming to you live inside Vacation Cafe. This is just one of the restaurant offerings here at the Margaritaville Beach Resort. Now, we've been here for quite some time earlier today, looking at some of the other restaurants, including this one, as well as talking to Executive Chef Lester Dean, who explains exactly what this resort will be offering to the general public this holiday season. Here's what he had to say.
We have some impeccable service. We have craftsmen on the bar, and the service is just on another level when you come to JWB.
Margaritaville Beach Resort, a well-known hotel brand, is now the hottest, newest ticket in town. Downtown, to be exact, and there's no shortage of things to do and eat. Executive Chef Lester Dean and his team create an array of experiences at any one of the many restaurants and bars on property. The main attraction is the JWB Prime Steak and Seafood Restaurant, but there are other attractions too.
We also have Vacation Cafe. It was casual. We open breakfast, lunch, and dinner from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. We also have our Feeding Frenzy, our beach restaurant that opens from 11 to 5. We also have Joe Merchants, the coffee shop that sells fresh pastry, fresh baked goods. That's open from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m.
And make no mistake, they have positioned Margaritaville at the standout from the competition.
This JWB is very, 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 very good. We have premium cuts of meat. We fly it in fresh all the time, never frozen. Vacation Cafe is casual, as I said before, but the service and the friendliness and probably the personal touch that we offer here at Vacation Cafe also, it makes it a difference.
Heading into the holidays, Margaritaville is definitely the festive option.
On Christmas Day, we have a buffet at Vacation Cafe. It's Christmas with Santa, so it will be an exorbitant amount of stuff on the buffet. We also have a set menu in Vacation Cafe for dinner. For New Year's, we have a New Year's Eve party on the water park for $200.
Now, Megan, you and everyone else in the office knows that I am a lover of all things food. So, and I've been dying all day to do this, so they gave us a sample plate that I've been waiting to try in front of everyone. So on this, we have some wings, we have some comfort, and we have some shrimp, and I'm gonna go for the shrimp. So here's how this is gonna, let's see what this tastes like. Okay, here we go. So this is really good, but don't take my word for it. I'm gonna invite my cameraman to come and take a sample as well, so you guys know. So let's give it a thumbs up. So it is really good. So I'm gonna stay here, we're gonna stay here and enjoy the rest of this, and I'll probably consider bringing some back for you guys. But for now, coming to you live from Vacation Cafe here in Margaritaville, I'm Berthany McDermott. Sending back to you in studio, Megan.
Thank you so much, Berthany. I think I've officially been swayed to spend my holidays at Margaritaville. Don't forget our to-go bags. When our news comes back from the break, we turn our spotlight to stories making headlines across the globe as a NASA satellite targets climate change. Plus, a legendary junkanoo prepares to make his return to Bay Street after a long hiatus. And on this day in 2021, the Davis administration announced the elimination of the COVID travel health visa. The details when our news returns. This is Our News. Welcome back. We turn our attention now to stories making headlines across the world. The Democratic Republic of Congo beginning 3 days of national mourning Wednesday after 141 people died in the latest deadly floods in the capital, Kinshasa. The provincial public health ministry updated the newest death toll to 140 deaths from the flood, triggered by heavy downpours, which pounded the country Monday overnight. Authorities had originally said at least 50 people were killed. Entire neighborhoods were flooded with muddy water and houses and roads ripped apart by sinkholes. Images showed a major road crowded with people and cars that suddenly dropped off a steep dirt cliff with a hole big enough to swallow houses where the pavement used to be. Residents blamed the government for the poor infrastructure that was impacted by the floods and landslides. A SpaceX rocket is due for launch from California early Thursday, carrying a NASA satellite designed to conduct the first global survey of Earth's surface waters. Scientists hope this will help shed new light on the mechanics and consequences of climate change. The Falcon 9 rocket, owned and operated by billionaire Elon Musk's commercial launch company under NASA contract, is set for blast-off at 3:46 a.m. from the Vandenberg U.S. Space Force Base, about 170 miles northwest of Los Angeles. Its payload, the Surface Water and Ocean Topography Satellite, or SWOT, incorporates advanced microwave radar technology that scientists say will collect high-definition measurements of oceans, lakes, reservoirs, and rivers over 90% of the world's surface.
I think what I'm most excited about is I want to see a picture of the amount of water flowing through all of the world's rivers into the ocean, all collected from space, right? Like, imagine an animation where I could show you not just like the output of some model that someone created, but actual real data that's saying, hey, look, I can tell you for any big river system in the world, I can tell you how much water is coming out of that right now. And we're doing that from a satellite. I mean, that's just fundamentally really cool.
At least 4 people were killed when a small boat loaded with migrants heading for British shores from France capsized in the freezing waters of the English Channel early Wednesday morning. Lifeboats, helicopters, and rescue teams working with the French and British navies responded to the incident, which took place as immigration to Britain, organized by people trafficking criminal gangs, has become a priority issue for Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's government. The incident occurred just over a year after 27 people died while attempting to cross the sea in an inflatable dinghy in November 2021, in the worst recorded accident of its kind in the Channel. Temperatures have plunged across Britain in the last week, bringing snow to parts of the country. Despite the freezing temperatures, more than 500 migrants have made the perilous journey in small boats since the weekend alone, with the people traffickers who organized the crossings taking advantage of low winds and calm seas. From the region, Cuba's vice foreign minister has accused the United States of blocking some of Cuba's top players from participating in the upcoming World Baseball Classic. It's the latest in a series of spats over a sport loved by fans in both nations. Cuba last month asked several players who in recent years had defected from the Caribbean island, long famed for its baseball talent, to represent their home country in the World Baseball Classic in March 2023. Others volunteered on their own. But he said the United States, despite authorizing Cuba's participation in the Classic, had yet to approve U.S.-based Cuban players competing in the event with their home country team. Vice Foreign Minister Carlos Fernandez de Cosio says the delayed permit is already a disadvantage for the Cuban team.
Never had a permission to be so delayed for organizers so that Cuba can participate, which is already a disadvantage for Cuban teams in terms of organization. This releases even the team's training. As Cuba is inviting players from around the world, some of them will be a part of the team, and some of the major leagues were included. But as they are in the United States, they need permission from the U.S. government to play in our country with our team.
Mexican Navy rescue dog Frida, who rose to fame due to her missions during the 2017 quakes, died in retirement at the age of 13. The Mexican Navy says her death was caused by ailments typical of her age. Known for her custom-made doggy goggles and boots, the yellow Labrador became a social media star after her search and rescue efforts in Mexico in the aftermath of the September 2017 quakes turned into a source of inspiration and pride for Mexicans. In addition to her work in the September 2017 disaster, she also put her nose to work in other missions, such as an earthquake in Haiti, Ecuador, southern Mexico, a landslide in Guatemala, and a Mexico City gas explosion. She retired in 2019. Frida spent her last years in the Navy's Canine Control subgroup, where she led a peaceful retirement. Still to come in our news, today in history, find out interesting facts about the day that was December 14th, as the Bahamas battled fatalities associated with the H1N1 virus back in 2018. Plus, Ian is back with your extended weather forecast. And then in our news at 7:30, oh Christmas tree. Our news gets an up-close look at the design and inspiration of the national Christmas tree. That's coming up when our news returns. Welcome back to our news. It's now time to turn our spotlight on events that shaped the day that was December 14th. On December 14th, 2018, then Health Minister Dr. Dwayne Sands confirmed another person died of swine flu. The 35-year-old woman was the second victim of the H1N1 virus in the Bahamas at that time. He declined to release the details, the woman's nationality, or whether she was in Nassau, saying the public shouldn't be worried. Then, 3 years later, on this day, the Davis administration announced the elimination of COVID health travel visas for returning Bahamians and residents. Hundreds were stuck abroad during the global pandemic for failing to produce COVID tests. Then, in world history, on this day in 1911, Norwegian explorer Roald Amundsen and 4 companions became the first men to reach the South Pole. In 1918, women in Britain voted for the first time in a general election and were allowed to stand as candidates. Then on December 14th, 2000, Cuban President Fidel Castro met with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Havana. The meeting saw pledges by Russia for oil exploration aid. The meetings and promises were seen as an act of defiance to the United States, which has forced an embargo in the communist country for 52 years. A British police inquiry ruled in 2006 that Princess Diana was not the victim of a murder plot when she died in a car accident in 1997. And finally, in 2008, in a now infamous, unannounced farewell visit by U.S. President George W. Bush to Baghdad, an Iraqi reporter called President Bush a dog and threw his shoes at him. Bush, who was set to leave office weeks later, is seen ducking as the shoe makes it over the podium. A familiar face is returning to Bay Street for the Junkanoo parades after an almost 2-decade hiatus. That Junkanoo sat down with our Sasha Lightborn. Here's that story.
I want them to be better than me. I want you all to be better than me. The fellas them in Brooklyn, they say, boy, when you there, I ain't who gonna drag the shoes, because it's some big shoes. And they start playing on the piano and singing in Georgia. Yeah, and made me feel good because they appreciate what you have done for them.
And that's really why Barabbas says he is returning to Bay after a hiatus of 15 years from Frontline Junkanoo. The man who has been in groups such as the Valley Boys and the Shell Saxon Superstars, the man who was responsible for Roots' music, will be returning to Bay Street for this season's Boxing and New Year's Day parades. He has a passion for the country, the culture, and young people. Reporting for Our News, I'm Sasha Lightborn.
Thanks so much, Sasha. To watch that story again and for all of today's top stories, visit ournews.bs. That does it for us at 7. Joining us now is our Natalia Hall with the latest headlines. Natalia, a little birdie told me you already got your to-go.
I have not. I did not receive my food as yet, but I saw Berthany earlier in the newscast with some delicious food. So I'm looking forward to my to-go bag.
I'll have to get both sides of that story a little later.
All right, Megan, thank you. Well, we are still keeping a close eye on the FTX drama as everyone wonders what's next for the crypto firm CEO. Our coverage continues right now with the latest.
New tonight on Our News Live at 7:30. What's next for FTX? The company's new CEO is questioned as the former chief spends his first night in a Bahamian jail. And what should have happened before the arrest of Sam Bankman-Fried? An attorney familiar with extradition cases gives his insight on how these matters work. Plus, the national Christmas tree is lighting up downtown Nassau. But how long did it really take? We speak with the designer tonight on Our News. And we're all pulling for our favorite Junkanoo group. But who's keeping the score? We take a look at the scoring process that will determine the big winners. Our News Live at 7:30 starts in a moment.
Welcome to Our News, and thank you for joining us. I'm Natalia Hall. The new CEO of FTX, John Ray III, questioned for hours yesterday by the United States House Committee. Congressman William Timmons seeking answers as to Ray's next step after noting that some 1,500 Bahamians were allowed to take out hundreds of millions of dollars after the bankruptcy filing.
Arguably, you're going to be going after the $100 million that was allowed by 1,500 Bahamian citizens to take out that was allegedly owed. You're still going to get to the bottom of that. So you plan on going after that money, correct?
We'll investigate every potential cause of action.
And if 1,500 people in the Bahamas were allowed 25 and a half hours to withdraw $100 million, do you plan on trying to get that back and distribute it appropriately?
Yeah, we will certainly pursue every course of action to recover.
Timmons then asking Ray his next step in keeping the company's filings to Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which he contends are better than a Chapter 15 filing.
We think the bankruptcy process here is the one place that has transparency and has the greatest ability to maximize value for creditors. But these things aren't usually mutually exclusive. We work with liquidators all the time on a cooperative basis, so this is a little bit unprecedented.
I think that's fair to say. This is going to be a law school exam for many students in years to come. I'll end with this. I really look forward to figuring out why the Department of Justice issued the provisional arrest warrant to preclude Sam Bankman-Fried from testifying before us this afternoon.
Attorney at law Osmond Johnson coming to the defense of former FTX CEO Bankman-Fried, who spent his first night behind bars at the Bahamas Department of Correctional Services. Johnson, who says he is familiar with the extradition proceedings, says that based on the statement issued by the Attorney General, unless there was a formal request made by the United States for Bankman-Fried's extradition, he should not have been arrested.
On what basis is Mr. Bankman-Fried in custody right now, unless, of course, our authorities can confirm that they have received a formal request from the Secretary of State of the United States of America to our Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which would engage the legal provisions under the Extradition Act and allow for the subject to be taken into custody lawfully.
Johnson says in a small jurisdiction like the Bahamas, the letter of the law must be upheld, especially when dealing with high-profile matters like the FTX debacle. Johnson adding that he believes Bankman-Fried should have been put under house arrest. The former FTX CEO was denied bail and is remanded to the Bahamas Department of Corrections until February 8th. Johnson explains what he thinks should happen next.
The first step should really be an application for bail to the Supreme Court so that you can secure the provisional freedom of the subject as soon as possible. An individual in his position should not, in my view, spend a day at the Bahamas Department of Correctional Services. But again, that falls upon the purview of the attorneys. I'm sure that they are going to take strenuous steps to seek and obtain his freedom. And I will go as far as to say that I believe he should be entitled, at the very least, to his provisional freedom.
While an Acklands man found guilty of killing his friend following a dispute has lost an appeal against his conviction for manslaughter and a 20-year prison sentence, Marvin Edgecombe was initially charged with murder in the 2017 stabbing death of David Hanna. However, the jury convicted him of the lesser charge of manslaughter following a trial in 2021. Edgecombe and Hanna had an initial dispute at a bar on June 3, 2017. Hanna, a fisherman, was trying to sell his catch. Edgecombe interrupted the sale and Hanna asked him to leave him alone. Edgecombe went to his seat but returned and hit Hanna in the chest. In response, Hanna broke a gin bottle over Edgecombe's head. Soon after Hanna left the bar, while Hanna was at a home-based restaurant, Edgecombe, who was still bleeding from the head, showed up demanding that Hanna come outside. Hanna was stabbed multiple times. Well, he stabbed Hanna multiple times, rather, as he was about to get into his vehicle. Edgecombe admitted to the stabbing, but told the officer that Hanna had injured him too. In dismissing the appeal, the Court of Appeal found the sentence fit for the crime. Well, cooler temperatures have us feeling a bit more festive in the capital. Forecaster Ian McKenzie joins us in the Weather Center with our current conditions. Ian?
Thanks, Natalia, and good evening, Bahamas. Welcome, everyone, to this Hump Day Wednesday forecast. Currently outside our studios, we're under mostly clear skies with a temperature of 76. Our winds are out of the southeast at 14 miles per hour with a feels-like temperature of 79. Taking a look at our satellite and radar imagery at this time, we have a few showers over the Freeport area, and this is generally associated with a funnel system that's draped across the islands at this time. This system should hang around for the next 36 to 48 hours. Stay tuned. More weather is still to come.
Still to come on our news, the national Christmas tree is lighting up downtown, but it wasn't without some challenges. Our Jamila Mizik speaks with the lead designer on this year's decorations. And government is one step closer to revealing the winning bidder for the Grand Bahama International Airport. And who will score big this Boxing Day and New Year's morning? It's all in the numbers. We take a closer look at Junkanoo's scoring when our news continues. In recent years, it has been the topic of discussion, the design of the national Christmas tree, and this year it's no different. Tonight, our Jamila Mizik speaks to the tree's designer about what went into the final product.
After several days of construction and decorating, the National Christmas tree is near completion. And while many question the incorporation of a Bahamian theme with the traditional Christmas design, others find it absolutely stunning.
We thought it was very nice. We like it. Colorful, it's beautiful.
The tree looks amazing. Really colourful. We haven't seen many anywhere else, but yeah, Disney. It's very similar to Disney World.
For several years, the National Christmas tree has been a hot topic as many look forward to seeing the tree displayed in the heart of downtown Nassau. I spoke to lead designer Linda Stubbs, who says this is not her first time decorating the 30-foot tree.
It must have been about 8 years before I actually got the contract to do the Christmas tree outright, but I was called in a couple of times to correct trees that were done poorly in the past.
She explains her thought process for this year's public display.
The ideal was for me to do 2 trees and dedicate a whole tree to the 50th, but that was not possible.
But the designer extraordinaire admits there were some challenges bringing her vision to life ahead of the national tree lighting ceremony, having only received the tree 2 days prior to the event. And while many comments flooded social media about this year's tree design, Stubbs is taking the criticism with a grain of salt.
You have to allow room for people to have their own opinions. This is not your regular 7 to 10 foot tree that appears in your home. It's an arduous task. For me, it's a labor of love because I'm simply doing what I love to do.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jamila Missick.
Thanks, Jamila. Now to an update on the heavily criticized Grand Bahama International Airport. Acting Prime Minister Chester Cooper says government is close to sealing a deal and picking a partner to develop the Northern Islands airports. The acting PM says he knows that people are eager to know more about the deal, but he's not in a position to make a statement as yet.
We are doing some final housekeeping on the process. It's being finalized. We know who the winning bidder is, but I can't tell you yet.
He also had little to say about the Grand Lucine Resort.
No update as it relates to Grand Lucine. When there's something to tell, I will make a statement.
When Our News comes back from the break, a gospel artist hosts a free concert this weekend. We'll tell you how you can secure your seat.
It was championship night at the Candlelight Gymnasium as the Father Marshall Peters basketball tournament wrapped up. 4 championships on the line. We'll tell you who won them all just ahead in sports.
Plus, the real deal about Junkanoo scoring. Our Jasmine Brown takes a closer look when Our News returns.
This is Our News. Welcome back. Bahamians are in for a special treat this weekend as American gospel musician Todd Delaney will be hosting a concert at the Bahamas Resort on Sunday free of charge. The gospel artist says for some time now he wanted to perform in the Bahamas, but those plans came to a halt due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
It's really been a long time coming. But this time I think it's going to be massive. I'm bringing my whole band, my singers, my team. And I think it's going to be perfect. And I think a lot of people are going to be out just because after the pandemic, concert numbers have been going crazy. So it's just going to be a cool experience. And then I'm going to stay a couple days, too.
Now, Delaney is widely known for hit songs like Victory Belongs to Jesus and You're a Great Name.
They can totally expect that and so much more. But more than anything, I've kind of made it my business to feature some Bahamians when we're there. So it won't just be me on stage, but I'm also featuring a couple surprises, a surprise Bahamian choir and a surprise guest artist from the Bahamas. And so I'm excited to share my platform and to see and to hear some of the super talent that comes from the Bahamas. So I don't want people to miss it because I really, really, really am excited about extending a special opportunity to somebody that the world needs to hear more of.
Yesterday was championship day at the Father Marcy and Peters basketball tournament. Meanwhile, local soccer action continuing as the Mingos try to pick up a win. Here's Marcellus Hall with a check on sports.
All right, thanks, Natalia. Welcome to our sports, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. Last night, or rather yesterday evening, the Candlelight Gymnasium was the place to be as the Father Marcy and Peters basketball tournament wrapped up with championship day. A lot of championships on the line. Let's take you right now to see exactly who won which ones. Yesterday, championship day at the Candlelight Gymnasium as the Father Marcy and Peters tournament wrapping up. Breaking down the championship series for you, primary girls, Telios Christian getting the win over Temple Christian 18-3. Meanwhile, on the primary boys side of things, it was Harbor Island beating Freedom Baptist 34-21. Junior girls title won by H.O. Nash as they beat C.H. Reeves in a close one, 46-41. On the junior boys side, Prince William Falcons 53-26 over Telios, and it was C.V. Bethel taking down C.R. Walker 31-26. Meanwhile, the UB Mingos fresh off a win against 17 FC, hoping to keep their streak alive against the Dynamos FC in Bahamas Football Association action on Sunday. Physical match started evenly, but the Dynamos able to strike first in the 10th minute of the contest. The Mingos defense picked it up and ended the half with the same 1-0 lead. Coming out of the half, Dynamos scoring in the 58th minute and then went on a defensive game. Despite Dynamos keeping the Mingos pressures, they were able to score for a third time in the 88th minute. The match ends in a 3-0 Dynamos win. UB head coach Dion Gadet said the side is still working through some challenges with a new formation.
We played a decent enough game, but we have a couple of critical things that we need to work on in order to compete against a team like Dynamos, or any team in the league, quite frankly. Tonight, Dynamos provided us, or I should say, presented us with an offensive attack with two of the better young forwards, national team players, and they slipped through. We had opportunities. We didn't put them away. I thought, like I said, I thought we had an opportunity to win tonight, and the score doesn't say it, but kudos to Dynamos. They won, and for us, we go to the drawing board over the holidays and get ready for Humboldt Cup.
And that is your look at sports here on this Hump Day Wednesday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you, Italia.
Still ahead on Our News Tonight, have you ever wondered what goes into scoring and judging Junkanoo parades? Our Jasmine Brown gets a behind-the-scene look. And we enjoyed beautiful conditions in the capital today. Your extended weather forecast is coming up right after this break. Welcome back to Our News. Breezy conditions continues this week. Ian is back in the Weather Center with your extended weather outlook.
Thanks, Natalia, and welcome back, everyone. Here's a look at our extended forecast. In our satellite loop, we have this funnel system that will continue to weaken across our area. However, we are watching this major weather event that's occurring right now in the southern states. We expect this funnel system to move into our area possibly by late Friday into early Saturday morning, and ahead of it, it may trigger one or two pockets of unsettled weather in terms of severe weather. So we want to keep our eyes particularly on this event, but after that, we do expect a slight cool down, so that's the blessing out of that. Boating forecast for this evening in the northwest Bahamas, we're looking at a small craft advisory. This will continue to affect us due to northeasterly swells. Winds will be east to southeast. Tonight becoming southerly, tomorrow at 15 to 20 knots. Seas running 4 to 7 feet, but up to 6 to 8 feet in those swells. And we expect a high tide at 12:18 a.m. tomorrow morning. In the central and southeast Bahamas again, we still have a small craft advisory due to those northeasterly swells. Winds will be east to southeast at 15 to 20 knots with seas running 4 to 7 feet, but up to 8 feet in those swells. Here's a look at your national forecast. And in your extended forecast, we expect breezy conditions tomorrow. However, rain chances bump up Friday through Saturday, courtesy of that frontal system that we expect in our area. So we're looking at highs in the low 80s with our lows in the upper 60s to low 70s. That puts a wrap on your forecast for this evening. Make it a great one, everyone.
All right, Ian, thanks so much. I'm loving the cooler temperatures that are to come. Well, each year, dozens of Junkanoo judges descend on the downtown district to score the two major parades. While we've all played amateur judge a time or two, there's actually a complex scoring process each judge takes into consideration. Jasmine Brown tells us more.
If you've ever attended or watched a Junkanoo parade, chances are you've done the mental score calculations for costumes, music, performance, and lead pieces. And if you're anything like me, you've thought about why the group you've scored the highest didn't take home the top prize, leaving you to wonder, how do the judges score the parades? Well, who better to ask than former deputy chairman for the parade management team with responsibility for judges V. Charmaine Roll.
The scorecards has everything, like I say, from performance to costuming to music. And you have different sessions. You have lead pieces, you have off the shoulder, you have free dancing. So all of them are different parts, intricate, to make up one score. And one of the things I basically always did was set a bar.
Thanks, Jasmine. Great report, and thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Natalia Hall. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great evening.